What's up YouTube, this is Miguel from EMEMAR Productions coming at you with a deck profile on a deck that has been requested on the channel quite often, believe it or not. And that's on my agents. Oh man, this was my official first deck ever that I made when I got playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively, not having 3 Blue Eyes and 5 Dark Magicians in a deck. This was my real big boy deck. I remember buying this. It took me like a span of like 3 months of buying it. And it was a budget one too. I got 3 structure decks and I kind of slowly the extra decks started trickling in, and it's kind of sad because the same deck that I ran back then I'm kind of running now, just because this deck is really slow and it's not really meta, but I just kind of run it just for fun. It's not, I wouldn't use this for a competitive setting, just for fun, But anyways, let's get started. We got 3 Hyperions, obviously. That's your boss monster of the deck. You banish any agent, you get to special summon him. Banish an agent from your field, hand, or graveyard, and you can special summon him. If then his effect is that once per turn you can banish a light fairy monster and pop a card on the field. And if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you get to do it twice. My deck consists of having Sanctuary, so it's a pretty good effect. Usually agent decks don't run it just because it's a little slower, and it is. I mean, it really is. I'll admit that. But some of these cards get a really cool effect. That second effect off of Sanctuary is amazing, and when you do get it, it's awesome. When you don't, run something better. But this is for fun. That's all I could tell you. Got 3 Earths. Obviously, one of the biggest parts of the deck. The engine, the searcher. It searches any agent except itself, and if Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you can search a Hyperion, and it's also a level 2 tuner. Nothing more there. And then I run 2 Venuses. I want to put up this to 3, and I probably will, just because after you use its effect and you get the shine balls out, it's kind of dead in your hand. You can kind of go for rank 3 plays, but other than that, it's just dead in your hand. And it's not that strong, and it's just usually just a fuel for Hyperion's effect. But I feel like a 2 is good, but I might add a 3 just to add a little more consistency to drawing it. And obviously, since you're running the 2 Venuses, you're gonna run 3 shine balls, and that's how you get your Synchro plays. That's how you get your Exceed plays. That's how you get your Gotchi, and that's how you get more fuel up and for Hyperion's effect. Next I run 2 Jupiters. I kind of ran 3 for a while, but I feel like his effect, the first effect is you get to banish I think it's an agent, an agent, and you get to make one of your light fairy monsters gain 800 points. Usually you don't use it for other monsters, you regularly use it for his own attack. So he becomes a 26 beater, which is good, but in this day and age 2600 isn't enough. So it's better at 2, but its second effect is what I love. If you have him on the field and Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field too, you can discard a light fairy and special summon a fairy monster that was banished or is in the banished pile, which is awesome. And that's any card. So that also sets up for Exceed plays, sets up for Synchro plays, or even gets back your Hyperions to go for game. And by game, I use that term very loosely because you're not going to go for game like that anytime soon. So just letting you know. And next I run 3 Uranus. I don't know how you pluralize that. But he's a good card just because you can special summon him once Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field. You can just drop him from your hand. And he's a level 5 tuner, and he converts to whatever monster. And its effect, besides special summoning itself, if Sanctuary is on the field, you could send a agent from your deck to your graveyard, and whatever level agent you sent, that's what level it becomes, because it's also a tuner. It's a dark fairy. The dark aspect of it kind of throws the deck off a little bit, but more or less it's kind of good just in case if people have a light imprisoning mirror, you could still kind of do its effect and get agents in the grave. But it's just for, and it's a 2200 beater, so it runs over Cyber Dragon pretty well if your opponent special summons something like that. So 3 of those. And finishing up the agent lineup is one, the Agent of Judgment Saturn. The only reason why I run this dude is just for his effect, just to make him a level 6, you know, with a shine ball on him and get an instant level 8. But other than that, I rarely use it for its effect, and that's if my life points are higher than my opponent's. Like in Sanctioned Skies in the field, I could just tribute it and nuke for burn for the difference of our life points. And it kind of has. It's very rare, but you know, if my opponent's at 2,000 and I'm sitting pretty at 5,000, if I tribute it, that's the game right there. But you know, it's kind of rare. It's a tribute summon monster, and it's really hard to get on the field. But primarily, I just use it for Uranus's effect. Other than that, that's about it. So that's the agents part of it. Right now, I'm gonna go into the other. Put that right there. Side of the fairies. 2 Christias. It's an awesome card. It's a 2,800 beater. Have 4 fairies on the field in the graveyard. You get to special summon it, and nobody can special summon when this card's on the field. So this locks down decks hard, like bad. Just because everything nowadays is special summoning this, special summoning that. Your opponent cannot pendulum summon, your opponent cannot fusion summon, your opponent cannot extra deck summon in any possible way, even special summon from their hand. So it's a good card. And the only thing I don't like is that if it gets sent from the field to the grave, it'll go to the top of your deck and it can kind of become tedious. But if you have a Valhalla set up, which I usually do, you know, you could always get it back. Or if you have the 4 fairies, you could always just kind of send one to the grave somehow. But usually that's not the best idea. So I just try to keep it at 2, just to keep a decent balance. And then this is the sanctuary part of it. I run 3 Zeradius, Herald of Heaven, just so I could get my sanctuary as quick as possible. I've had duels with Rick on the channel, and for the life of me, he has, against his ABC deck, I don't know how he does it. He always gets Union Hanger first turn. I cannot get a damn sanctuary. I run 3 searching cards and I run 3 sanctuaries, and for some reason I could never ever get it on the first turn. Probably 3rd turn or 4th turn, and by then it's too late. But you know, this basically fueling Hyperion's effect, just kind of to deck thin too. So discarding it, getting a sanctuary, you know. So yeah, that's it. Next I run 2 Hecatrice. And this is just, again, to kind of deck thin and send stuff to the graveyard to like fuel Hyperion's effect. And his effect is when it gets sent, I can discard it from my hand to the grave, and I get to add a Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen to my hand, which is a really great card. Next I'll have 1 Marshmallow just for stalling. The deck is slower than it was back in its heyday, you know, back when it won Worlds. But like I said, I just use this deck for fun. I would probably take it to a locals, just, you know, for, you know, just to kind of kill some time. But for competitive play, not really, you know. So Marshmallow just helps to stall, get 1,000 burn damage in. That's about it. And probably use it for Exceed or a Synchro play. And rounding up the monsters would be 1 Honest. I'd probably consider running another Honest, but it's you know, 1 Honest seems to be doing the job just fine. And yeah, so that's the end. That's the end for the monsters. Let's go for spells. I run 3 Sanctuary in the Sky. Its effect is pretty basic. I really wish it would do more, especially probably I wish that Konami would release a card that was do so and so and do that. I don't know off the top of my head, but just say something broken for fairies and then say this card is treated as Sanctuary in the Sky while it's on the field. You know, that would be awesome. But his Sanctuary in the Sky, basically any battle damage you would take involving a fairy type monster becomes 0. Good, but not the best. It's just usually just used for the monster's effects, just so I could get them off. So yeah. Next, it's 2 Valhalla, Hall of the Fallen. And this is a pretty good card first turn. Getting Christia and Valhalla first turn and you're going first is an amazing feeling. Just because you activate this, you control no fairies, and you can special summon any fairy from your hand. Activating this and then summoning Christia, that's a good lockdown right there, just because they can't do anything unless you're playing monarchs. Then they're kind of probably run over it a little bit easier, but still, it's a very, very, very strong opening, and it gives you more versatility to draw cards and build a good field and keep it under control. But you know, two of those. Next, I've been playing around with it a little bit. I kind of took out the twin twisters for another stuff, and that's just because the game now is so crazy on the amount of monsters you can summon, and Raigeki's at 1. And I don't run Raigeki in this, and I probably should throw it in, but I just teched in an extra Dark Hole just for monster destruction, just so clear the field, and you know, even send some of my fairies to the grave, just so pump up Hyperion's effect, or even, you know, get some fairies in the grave to get Christia out as soon as possible. So 2 Dark Holes, it's been working okay, but you know, it does the job when it has to. Again, it's not competitive, it's just for fun. And let's go to the traps. For traps, drop one card. For traps, I run 2 Divine Punishment. It's basically a solemn warning. If your opponent would activate a trap, and if a monster effect or a spell card, you can negate it, and it's a counter trap, so it's a spell speed 3. You know, only another spell speed 3 could counter it. And this card basically negates it as long as Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field. So these are pretty good cards. So they do become dead if you don't have Sanctuary, but I plan on having Sanctuary as quickly as possible. So that's the 2 traps, and then the rest are just kind of one-offs. Not really double or triple or any cards. But I run 1 Torrential, again for the same reason that I run 2 Dark Holes, is for just field clearance and monster destruction. Next, I run 1 Vanity's Emptiness. It's basically a Christie on a trap card. It's a good card, you know. The opponent can't activate it. This is kind of like the backup for Christia. Sometimes I actually have this set when I have Christia on the field, just in case. But you know, 1 Vanity's Emptiness. Next, I run 1 Solemn Warning. It sucks that it's at 1. I would probably run 2 if it was, but you know, negate those summons. And 1 Solemn Strike. Destroy those effects and those summons. It's a pretty good card. I'm thinking about adding another one, but at this point, you know, paying so many life points kind of gets you down pretty quick, especially when you're trying to stall sometimes. So I don't want to kill myself, so I try to keep a decent amount of life points. And finally, 1 Dimensional Barrier, just to kind of cut down on how Exceed plays, or even Fusion and Synchro plays, just so I could get a decent amount of control back. You know, again, like I said, agents aren't competitive, and running these cards, you know, kind of level out the playing field. You know what I mean? So that's it for traps. Now to the extra deck. Now I'm going to say that the extra deck needs a lot of work. I'm still using the similar extra deck that I used when I was still playing back in the day, when I first made this deck, and it really does need work. And you know, any advice, you know, would be greatly appreciated. Just don't bury me. Again, this deck is just for fun. I wouldn't run this at any competitive level. So first one would be a Sky Cavalier Centuria. It's basically a level rank 2. I use 2 level 2 monsters, and usually this is iffy. Going for this or a Gachi depends where I'm at in the game. If I open up and I can open for Shine Balls, I go for that Gachi just to build a wall and give monsters a boost. But you know, late in the game, if I want to go swing for game, or kind of think that there's a card that I need to get rid of, I got this guy. His effect, just really quick, is this card cannot be destroyed by battle while it has Exceed materials. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can detach 1 Exceed material monster from this card, return the opponent's monster from the field to the hand. So as long as it has Exceed materials, it can't be destroyed, and you know, if I attack, I'll take the damage, but then your monster gets bounced back to your hand, which is good. Next is the Gachi. Gaining 200 points for every material, and if it would be destroyed, I just detach the material. Gachi is usually good going just for building a wall, getting a nice defense back backed up, and you know, boosting up Venus's power to 2000. Other than that, you know, it's pretty much self-explanatory. And this is what I mean right now. What I mean by the extra deck needing a lot of help. And I still run my Leviathan Dragon. You know, who runs Leviathan Dragon nowadays? It's basically a 25 beater, and you know, I like it. It's near and dear to my heart just because it's an ulti. You know. Next I run one wind up Zen mains. Again, it's an old card. So just again, this is just for back. You know, Zen mains I remember was so, you would have to waste like 4 cards to get rid of this guy, and now you could just, you know, spin that card back to the deck with what's that guy's name? Level 4, it's a bird, Castell. You know, you can just spin them back into the deck, or even bounce them, and you know, no big deal, right? So one wind up. One Leviair. I do see this being useful just so I could revive some monsters. Probably, usually it's Earth, just so I could pull some Synchro plays or even some Exceeds plays if there's a Shine Ball. People don't usually see that coming. They expect that I'm gonna go Synchro if I have the Earth, but you know, I usually overlay the Earth and the Shine Ball and make a level 2 or rank 2, either Centurion or Gachi, whatever's available at the time. Next I run one Tiras, Keeper of Genesis, just because I rarely pull this guy out, but when I do, that's just because of Uranus, just because I could just drop 2 of them at the same time and overlay, probably get the mill or get the effect of sending stuff to the grave, and then going for this guy. So that's it for the Exceeds. For Synchro, old. I cannot specify that. Flamvell Urquaza. When was the last time you seen this? Right. Just a little backstory. This was my first ever card I ever bought off of Amazon, or the first card I ever bought single. Right here, Flamvell Urquaza. And for you guys that don't know and haven't been around that long, it's basically a level 6. It pierces, and every time that it pierces, it gains 300. So it becomes 24, then 27, and it keeps on piercing. Anything can get over it. I just run it just because I can, you know, just to keep the fun alive. And it's, you know, it's one of my first ones, so you know, it has a special place in my heart. One Black Rose, you know, nuke the field. Next I run one Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, just because it's a good synchro, just to get rid of a level 5 monsters that activate their effects, or even that target him or any other level 5 and against its attack. Pretty good card, Clear Wing. So that's it for level 7s. Level 8, I get one Angel of Zera. He's a pretty good card when banishing. When you get him out and he gets into the grave or whatever, I banish him with Hyperion's effect, and once I banish him, the next standby phase, it doesn't have to be my standby phase, but my opponent's standby phase after, or any standby phase after he was banished, he gets special summoned, which is awesome. And he's a 28 beater, and he gains 100 points for every card that my opponent has removed from the field. So you know, it runs over. It's a good card against Cosmos, since they have all these cards that are removed. It gains a decent amount. It can go over Dark Destroyer pretty easily. And another level 8, old school, you know, old but goodie, an oldie but a goodie. Scrap Dragon, Stardust Dragon. When was the last time you saw someone running a Stardust Dragon? Be honest, come on, it's been a while, right? Thought Ruler Archfiend. Who have you seen run a Thought Ruler Archfiend? Because it's a 2700 beater, if you could even consider it a beater, you know. If it destroys a monster, you gain equal to the monster's attack. And if it gets targeted, or if any psychic monster gets targeted, pay 1,000 and negate it. So it's just usually for him. If he gets targeted, I can pay 1,000 and negate it. These are old school cards, except for the Angel of Zera. And one last level 8, Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Pretty good card, you know, for an Archfiend card. You activate effect, and every monster that has 3,000 or less gets destroyed. every special summon monster to be correct, and after that your opponent takes 100 burn damage for every single card, and then it can still attack in the same turn. Usually this means game, you know, Gaga, Cowboy, or what's the other card that burns you for game usually? I can't think of it off the top of my head, but you know, this is a good example too. Usually my opponent's at 13 or 15, you know, usually getting him out and having another special summon monster, and one usually there's, you know, game right there. And finally, one Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Tree, level 10. He's really easy to make, really easy to make. Just getting Hyperion out, and then having the Earth. You know, going Sanctuaries on the field, going Earth, getting the Hyperion. You know, summon the Hyperion, use its effect twice, popping cards, and then synchroing the Earth and the Hyperion together and make him. You know, it's a pretty good card, and it's usually the hardest card that my opponent has hard time getting rid of, just because, you know, it can be targeted. And yeah, that's it. I will have more duels on the channel with this deck. Haven't been successful, but you know, it's an old, I just have this deck just for fun, and it's very near and dear to my heart, just because this was the first deck I ever built. But I'm hoping that one day in the future they release some kind of support so they can run better and probably even come back. But anyways, guys, that's about it. I appreciate you guys watching. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And if you want any more deck profiles, or maybe, you know, us to build a deck, you know, just let us know in the comments below and we'll do that for you. All right, so remember to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.